Well, we're joined now by Senator Bob Menendez, Democrat of New Jersey, who's also the chairman of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, who's in charge of electing Democrats to the Senate. Senator Menendez, thanks for being with us. And I want to start with the energy issue and oil drilling. You've been a big opponent of offshore oil drilling over the years, and you're going to be meeting with members of your caucus today to discuss a path forward on energy. Is there 60 votes for comprehensive climate change legislation?
Well, if there's to be 60 votes, we obviously need some of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle to join us. And look, that's what the caucus is about, because we know that moving to new energy, renewable energy sources is critical for our country, not only in terms of energy, in terms of jobs, in terms of creating a new green economy. And the question is, which way do you do that? Do you do that through a comprehensive climate change bill, or do you do that with an energy package that may, in fact, be sustainable in the short term and be able to pass as you still continue to build towards climate change? So I hope climate change can move forward, but we're going to get a better sense of that today.
But by trying to do this now, Senator, doesn't it create the impression that you're trying to exploit this crisis? I mean, as Senator Dianne Feinstein said, climate change legislation is not going to stop that leak. We need to stop that leak and deal with the crisis at hand.
Well, look, no one is trying to exploit the Gulf. The question is, and we all want to stop the leak, and I also want at the same time, want to make the companies that are responsible for the leak, notwithstanding what they've done so far, totally responsible by lifting the liability cap. But what it does do is it dramatizes for people across the country who might have been ambivalent about how we move to renewable energy sources, the urgency of moving to that sooner rather than later. And I think that that is totally an acceptable understanding of, here's a vivid example of why we must move to those renewable energy sources so that we don't have the risk of another spill, so that we're not polluting our collective environment, so that we breathe cleaner air, and so that we can also create a new generation of jobs that will be high-paying, can't be exported abroad, and we stop sending $1 trillion abroad to countries that are despotic, which is ill, and we give them the money to act out on their despotism.
Senator, fair to say that there's not 60 votes for cap and trade, and I think any analyst would tell you that it just doesn't exist. Is the strategy going to be to pass something out of the Senate and then hope for coming together in the conference committee, maybe similar to what we saw in health care?
Well, I think the strategy is to first figure out, do we have the votes necessary to achieve putting a price on carbon? How is the best way you do that? And in doing so, that moves to the whole other elements of creating the resources for renewable energy, creating the resources for adaptation, creating the efforts to create a new green economy. And so, and there are some, even within the climate change legislation, who have different views as to how you achieve that. We're going to flesh that out today.